Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Frederica Freiberg. Tonight, we bring you the first of a two-part in-depth visit with the candidates running for U.S. Senate. Nexel will be here. Tonight, we talk with Republican candidate Robert Gerald Lorge and Democrat incumbent Herb Kohl. Mr. Lorge is an attorney based in Bear Creek. That's about 30 miles west of Green Bay. Mr. Lorge also ran as the Republican candidate in the 2004 U.S. Senate primary.
The world knows they're mismanaging the war. So the whole thing is to, use John Warner's approach and find some people that we can send there that'll get the job done right. I believe in getting in, getting the job done, and then getting out.
Let me move along to terrorism, and it obviously segues with the war in Iraq, and I'll direct this to you, Mr. Lorge. Senator Russ Feingold, our other senator, strongly supports the idea that this war in Iraq has actually spurred global terrorism in a very big way, not kind of prevented it. What is your opinion of that persuasion?
Well, I look at the long historical view. This war against terror, particularly in the Islamic fundamentalist world, began a long time ago. When you have a secular country like Turkey where the prime minister says that our minarets are our bayonets, and you have these hate schools, the madrasas, turning out future, terrorists and people that want to blow themselves up.
Do you think the war in Iraq is making that better or worse?
I don't think that the war in Iraq is making that either any worse or any better. I'd rather fight the terrorists in Iraq than to fight them, on the streets of New York, the streets of Chicago. So if you have to fight them over there. But get the job done. Realize who the enemy is. It's not all the Muslims of the world. It's a few extremists that want to grab power in all of these countries. We should have never, Senator, allowed Iraq to become an Islamic republic, just for one example. We should democratize these places, allow their people true freedom.
Senator Kohl, do you want to weigh in on
Certainly. Well, terrorism, as we know, is going to be something that we're engaged in for decades to come, because the terrorists are not confined to any one country. There are people scattered in many different countries, and in that sense it's a very unconventional war that we need to arm ourselves for psychologically, militarily, from the point of view of intelligence gathering. This is something that we all understand that we have to be engaged in for a long time to come and prepare ourselves militarily, psychologically, as I said, from the point of view of CIA and intelligence gathering, to deal with terrorism in its many manifestations for a long time.
Are we safer now than we were before we went to Iraq?
Well, there was a national intelligence estimate that came out the other day, which is a bipartisan or nonpartisan kind of a governmental report that says we're not more safe because of the fact that the war has engendered a large escalation of terrorism. But we have done an awful lot to try and make ourselves safer as a country. We've done a lot to increase, for example, port security. We've done a lot, or we're recently trying to do a lot to increase border security, which is really, really important. We're going to be building several hundred miles of walls at the most trafficked locations to deal with illegal immigration, which has got an awful lot to do with security.
Let's talk about that. In fact, that was our next kind of topic to get to, and that was immigration. Congressman Sensenbrenner is heralding the Senate vote in which you voted in favor of the 700-mile wall on the border with Mexico as a victory for his kind of brand of immigration reform, which is security and enforcement. Is that your brand of immigration reform?
I preferred, and the Senate voted for, bipartisan, a more comprehensive reform, which not only included border security, but included other elements of how are we going to deal with the 12 million people who are here right now. But the only vote that the Republicans presented us with was a vote on the first part, which is border security, which is something we have to do some more about. But in that vote, we did not deal with something that I think is essential, and that's to dry up these jobs that they're coming here for. We need to be sure that we have a sort of identification card that these immigrants that come here legally have, and then not give the others jobs who don't have identification cards. If we do that, and if we penalize employers severely for hiring undocumented immigrants, then we will dry up the reason why they cross the border to come into our country.
Let me let Mr. Lorch jump in, and I want to, well, go ahead and respond if,
Well,
if you like.
I'd like to respond in part. I'm kind of confused because the senator voted for SB 2611, the amnesty bill, which also forgives these very employers that you now seek to, penalize. And he does hit on the problem. Some people think there's 13 million illegal aliens. There might be as many as upwards toward, the high 20s. You're not going to defeat it by just putting up a wall. Let's understand that. You do have to solve the problem. The problem is not in America, Senator. The problem is in Mexico. None of what the Senate or the Congress or even the administration has done has really gone to the root cause of why those people are leaving Mexico and coming to the United States. Until we solve the cause of the problem by negotiating and putting a little pressure on our friends to the south of the border, we're going to continue to have them. And granting amnesty just encourages more of them to come. The last amnesty bill that was passed did not stop the invasion. This one that you voted for won't stop it either.
Well, the bill that we voted on in the Senate was bipartisan, as Mr. Lorch understands and well knows. It was voted on by people who are on both sides of the aisle, and it was supported by the president, as you know. He supported the Senate bill, but then they came back and presented us only with the border bill in terms of the wall. So we voted on that, but that was not the position that was held by the administration and the Republicans in the Senate, as well as the Democrats, who wanted to deal with immigration in a comprehensive way.
And I think the Sensenbrenner bill in the House did that, and that's one that you should have voted for, and you didn't.
Well, what do you think the U.S. government should do with the Mexican government in terms of solving this problem on that side of the border?
Well, there's a lot of problems in Mexico, as we know. They have a corrupt government. You know, it's impossible for Americans to do any direct investment there. We have a lot of retirees there, Senator, that want to, develop little businesses. They're forbidden to do that. You cannot even own land within about 60 miles of the ocean. So until we shore up, some of these treaties that would grant our people equal access to the Mexican market versus them just having the right to buy land and invest here in the United States, have a two-way street like we do with Canada, I think we'd eliminate a lot of the problems. God knows, Mexico has a lot of resources, not just their people, but we're talking mineral wealth and everything else. So if we could help them build up their own people, there's nothing wrong with, us buying from them and them buying from us like we do with Canada. We all get richer that way. It's when they send their poor, their welfare, a lot of their criminal element, and expect our social welfare system to pay for all of this influx, we can't handle it, and we shouldn't be paying the bill for it.
Well, that's, again, it's almost impossible for us to imagine in any foreseeable way cleaning up their country and their economy and their policies in the foreseeable future. That's not going to happen. But it seems to me if we dry up the job opportunities, which we are in a position to do, then that immigration will slow to a trickle because there'll be no purpose in their coming here.
Let me move along.
The senator has a point on this, Frederica, but part of the reason a lot of the manufacturers and employers find that they need to hire what I call slave labor, sweatshop labor, is because of other bills that you voted for, like the Communist China Trade Agreement, the Vietnam trade agreements where we're receiving all of these cheap imports from basically sweatshop and slave labor countries, and then we have to expect our own manufacturers to try and compete with that.
Respond to that. You were in the business world for many years.
Well, certainly. You know, I've supported some free trade agreements, and I've rejected others. Like, for example, I voted against the Mexican free trade agreement because I didn't think that would be good for us, and it hasn't turned out to be in many respects. But we do live, as you know, in a worldwide economy, and it is impossible to build a fence around our country and not do business with other countries around the world. We need to do it in the most constructive way. We need to do it in a way that will encourage other countries to open up their markets to our products and to treat their workers in a more munificent way. But we cannot take the position that we will not have trade with other countries. That is a certain way to create a depression in this country and to do enormous damage to our economy.
So, Senator, there is a depression on the horizon in this country. Small towns like Marion, Wisconsin, that had 36 industries, they now have 18 because all of these companies have been offshored to places like Communist China.
But you're not suggesting that we not do business with other countries.
I believe that we have to take a moral high ground. Slavery anywhere is slavery everywhere, including
So
in this
you
country.
believe that we should not do any business with China?
I did not say that. They need to come up to our level. Now, if they won't, then we need to put tariffs on to encourage them to do so. There needs to be some incentive other than the incentive of allowing them to continue on their merry way and keep their people down, which they're doing. That doesn't benefit them. It doesn't benefit us.
Let me move along. I know that's a hot-button topic for you in particular, but for everyone, let me move along to health care. There's been increasing